All right, so today we're joined via Zoom here in Nova Lab Studios in downtown LA by DJ Hoppa. Hoppa, thanks for joining us today.
Hey, what's going on, man? Thank you for having me.
Of course. So I was watching another interview you had done with someone else, and I didn't realize. So you've had Broken Complex now for, which is your label, for go like 17, 18 years. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
And you
Long
started
time.
around when you were like 17, 18.
Yeah, I think we probably started it. It was like brewing when I was like 17, 18, and I think my first project I was like 19 when we dropped it.
That's crazy
So,
because I remember when I was listening to that again, you were saying something like you didn't like the process of like selling something to someone, like you didn't like going through that whole process, like pitching yourself and doing all that. So you guys kind of like bundled up cash and then just started your own thing.
yeah, it was like one homie believed in me, and then another homie had a credit card and believed in me, and then like we somehow like were like, all right, we could do this. It's just like we had that energy that you have at that age, you know what I
Right,
mean? It's like really we could do anything type shit. And we didn't have the means to do it at all, but we tried, and it was
right.
like it took a long time just to get, I think that was like 2003, and we weren't like an official LLC, structured business until like 2010, like 7 years later. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? We were doing
Right.
it grassroots and building it very slowly, and just because there's so much work that goes into it and so much more behind the scenes stuff. But yeah, that's how it started, man. Real organic and just like me and a couple homies.
Do you think if you guys had started it later, like let's say, like actual, not just like the actual making it the LLC, but the whole conceptualizing it, let's say like 10 years later, do you think you would have kind of gone through it as long, in terms of like kind of going through the trials and tribulations at the beginning?
No, it probably, I mean, we didn't have any guidance. We didn't
Yeah.
have anybody that was in the music industry that was like, this is how you do it. And this is before YouTube
Right.
was popping. So it's like, yeah, if we would have waited 10 years, we could have went on YouTube and been like, how to run a record label, and like gone through that deep dive and found out all this. Now there's so much information. It's like pretty self-explanatory, how to like do these certain things, like what goes into it. But at that time, we're comparing ourselves to like, this is the time when it was like major labels and platinum artists and like music videos were all very big budget, um not as commonplace to see indies doing it, you know what I mean, like
Hmm.
on the level they're doing it now, not even close. This
Right.
is like more MTV was still like really, Little John was on MTV, and Ying Yang Twins and shit like that was going on like when we were starting this, I think sometime around that era. And so like it was definitely like, even some of the artists I worked with, I was like, man, if YouTube was what it was when we were, doing our thing, if
Hmm.
we would have jumped on that, it would have been wild, like, or if we would have focused on videos and stuff, which some people did and really took off, like with the YouTube stuff.
Yeah.
So there's definitely stuff you would be doing quicker, if you wait. But then it's like something about it, like you might not even take the risk later.
That's what I was
You
kind
know
of
what I mean?
wondering.
Like you
Yeah.
might not even be down to do it. Like you might just be like, "Oh, bro, I'm in college. Like I'm going this way with my," you know what I mean? You
Yeah.
might have thought about it a different way, and like, we all just jumped in, and and a couple of the homies that jumped in from the beginning, they ended up like having to gracefully just bow out because like literally both of them had families really young, and they were just
Mm.
like, man, I can't put all the time into it because I have to work, and then I got my kid and my wife, and it's like, like understandably so. It's like, having a band or something with your
Right.
friends from high school, and it's like a couple guys are just like, I can't do it no matter how much I believe in it or whatever. It's like but those are still my brothers, you know what I mean? So like right now it's just it's me and my buddy Mike that run the core like Heart of Broken Complex, the business end of it. But yeah, man, like you definitely, it's hard to judge, but yeah, in hindsight you're like, man, if I knew then what I know now, right? It's
Certainly.
like so yeah, like that 10-year thing that applies, so like for sure.
What was the biggest learning curve for you guys in the beginning? I mean, granted, you guys were
Um
very young, so I'm sure there was a lot, but like somewhat like the toughest things you can remember.
you know, I would say like marketing and promotion, because
Because that
those things
costs
are
dollars too.
so, yeah, and it's being a young artist, it's so not what you're about typically. Like, you're about the music, you know what I mean? So it's like you're all focused on the music and the sound, and then all of a sudden it's like there's this whole element of like, photo shoots or
Mm.
press, or like, doing all this. You want to go on, we always wanted to do shows. We always wanted to go on tour, but like a lot of the other stuff, like, even like the pitching yourself or selling yourself and doing all that, that's the whole music industry element. So like that was definitely something that we had to like learn and adjust and like figure out how we can navigate and feel good about it, and like and just work the marketing and shit. Like, and that's something still like, it's like there's social media now, which makes it real easy. You can just kind of let people into whatever element of your life you want to let them into,
Mm.
and, establish some kind of common bond or something with the viewer through what you're showing. But yeah, like, marketing and promo probably were like a big struggle.
Yeah. I was wondering while you were describing all that, like, given that you were at such a young age and you kind of alluded to it too, that's probably what also helped you be more willing to take a gamble like that. Because you were saying, like, you wait a little more, you get more responsibilities. So probably the way it ended up happening probably ended up serving you guys best, because while the initial periods were obviously tough, you're young and you have, like you said, there was no guidance. But I think given that you have to kind of do it on your own, you definitely remember everything a lot more, and every single painstaking moment will sting you a little more. So now where you are at today, you already have I would assume, kind of like a leg up, given that you went through all of that in the beginning.
Right, right. Like, it's like I wouldn't be able to handle that shit now if I went back, and like some of those tours I did coming up, or just some of those like situations that were just like, like it's just like cutting your teeth on like events, and just like, all kinds of shit, man. There's all kinds of stuff, you got to do to promote yourself. We did everything, like went to colleges, and like, we're just like showing cats music, hustling CDs, going to shows, doing just everything, man.
do you
Everything to get the music out there.
do you think that that whole mentality and that doing the things and more independently, is that making um more of a presence now, or do you think it's not as prevalent, or is it growing? Because there's like some pretty big independent guys now that I've seen. Like a couple of them I was asking you about was like Tom McDonald, for example, or Chris Webb. These are guys that are doing it on their own, but they're taking off. Now I don't know if that's like
Right.
a minority, because that's a couple off the top of my head I can think of. There's obviously others too that are successful in it, but it seems like, given that they're literally doing it all themselves, they're doing very well. So do you think
Yeah.
there's more of a path now, or is that just they're just a couple of anomalies?
There's definitely more of a path, and it's more, to be honest, I don't, I can't say for certain, but I'm 90% sure none of these guys are really doing it alone, 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 alone.
Hmm.
Like, they have their team, right? They have their
Sure.
manager, and they got their lawyer, and they got their people that they work with. So there's still a team at play.
Hmm.
And sometimes, like, they might have distribution, which is like a distribution from like a major label or something
Sure.
that's like helping them in some way, shape, or form. But that being said, they control all these situations. Like, these situations can come to them directly, where maybe back in the day, um, they just don't reach the artist directly like they do now. Like just the opportunities or the resources. So like now an artist just can easily get established to a point where they can make the power play against a label, and not need a label per se, because they have the people that believe in their music.
Hmm.
They have people that come to the shows, and they can just like take that momentum and build their own team to further their momentum without fully like, you know, but it just depends, because sometimes, like, if the deal is right, like I run an indie label and it's still a label, you know what I mean? It's just like, it's all about really the give and take with the artist, and how much control the artist has, and making sure that like you're very transparent with all the business. Those are the things that make the relationship work, you know what I mean? So it's like, and with major labels, you just hear the nightmare stories of like, it's like if you don't have that guy on the label that's like your best friend connecting with you and helping you out, it's like it's just you and this like big entity. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
it's like, so that's the shitty part about the majors is like, you know, people get their records shelved and they don't even know who they're mad at. They're just mad at like the system of the major or whatever's blocking them. You know, they don't believe the singles are hot enough, or they don't want to commit to stuff. That's all stuff that's commonplace, like nightmares you hear about major labels. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely, and
Um,
that kind of goes to what you were saying. How it's like they don't know who to be mad at because, like you said, it's like a faceless thing.
right,
So it's like
right.
you don't even know where to go, where to start at, like to address whatever that issue is.
Yeah, I've heard from artists who were like, you know, really progressing and working towards like, you know, a deal or you know, partnership, releases, things happening with the label, and then the A&R, whoever they were working with, you know, goes and works somewhere else, jumps ship, and that whole, you know, all that work or whatever that artist put into it, that's like out the window. You know, the other guys at the label, they're like, oh, I don't know who that is, I don't give a fuck. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah,
Like, oh,
exactly.
I've heard that, you know, happen to a buddy of mine, and I was just like, damn, that's sucks, man. You know what I mean? It could be. So it's like, you know, back to my shit, it really ends up being personal relationships like drive the first instinct of working with somebody is like, do I fuck with you? Do I want to see you win in general? And
Hmm.
then it's like, okay, let's take it from there. It's like, because I'm not gonna let the music alone like make that situation, because you don't want to just be working with somebody who's a dick, you know what I mean? Like, or
Exactly.
whatever. Yeah.
Well,
So
when you were mentioning that, I was thinking of Hopsin because you've obviously worked with Hopsin. Hopsin's discussed this in interviews and in his music when he was with Ruthless. How what was said was going to be the case for him ended up not being the case for him after. Like he thought it was going to be one way, it didn't end up being the case, and then he was
right,
left
yeah, the
trying to get
root,
out of
that's a
there.
classic, yeah, that's a classic tale of that signing to a major, and you know, you know, yeah, like that's just that's how he felt about it, and that's what he went through. You know, everybody knows, everybody's heard that song, so
Yeah,
yeah, they know what it is.
yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. So okay, you started doing that in the beginning with Broken Complex around whatever 2003. When did you end up kind of getting established with some of the Funk Volume guys? Like how'd that kind of get to be?
That happened, I want to say around 2011.
Okay.
So like, and I had just done a tour in 2010 with Broken Complex. I was doing really, I got my first tour in 2007, and that's the first time I did like a nationwide tour.
Hmm.
I did 42 cities with AWOL One and Josh Martinez. It's like the Bring On the Spring tour, and that was amazing. I was like 23 on that tour and just had a blast. And we uh we ended up doing a few like small runs up California, West Coast runs, just like Sacramento. You know, we just started finding these
Sure.
little spots and like different like independent artists and stuff, and we were working with them. And I was also DJing like local bars and shit. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
Wednesday nights at this dive bar where the drinks are $6 for a big old beer and
Right, right.
shots or whatever, you know, like little party spots. And that's when I got reached out to by Dame, and he just told me, you know, I hadn't heard of Funk Volume yet, and he told me about them and Hop and Swizz, and he just said, hey, you know, these guys are planning a tour, they want a DJ, are you interested? And I was like, yeah, come to the spot, you know, see me DJ, come to the bar or whatever. He came by, and I did a show with Hop and Swizz in Bakersfield.
Hmm.
So like that was the first show, and it went dope. They were really cool, and I liked their music, and I loved their live show. I was like, man, these guys are energetic as fuck, really polished. You know, like a lot of like artists are like sloppy in the beginning. You know
Sure.
what I mean? Like, and these guys, they obviously weren't at their full potential, but they were sharp. They were super sharp and polished, and like I respected that because like I took the DJ shit, you know, seriously, and I wanted to put on a great show. So I think we all like clicked on, you know, every night after the show, we were like, yo, that was a great show. We always felt good about the shows and shit like that. So it was like that was fun. So that was like the first linking up with them.
Cool. And then So then obviously you guys went, so that was around 2011. So you guys go about 4 or 5 years. Fallout happens. So when the fallout happens, what's your initial reactions? Like, what are you thinking? Like, were you thinking this is Dunzo, or were you thinking this might have some opportunity to be repaired?
I kind of knew it was gonna be. I knew it was serious when it happened. I didn't think it was like just a flash in the pan, because like everything, that last tour we did, shit was already brewing.
Oh, okay.
So like, everybody was kind of just feeling a certain way about the situation. So I kind of knew like, something was going to change. It was definitely like, more drastic and abrupt than we thought it would be, I think. Like, I'm like, oh shit. Oh, it's like that. Like, boom, kaput.
Right.
And then, and then after that, it was just like, okay, everyone just like took a break and fizzled out. And then what was weird was like Dizzy had a tour with Logic right after the Funk Volume 2015 tour. So we were excited. We were coming off this tour and going on a massive tour. It was like Logic was releasing his Incredible True Story album. So it was a sold out tour, and he brought Dizzy as a special guest. So every show was sold out. It was just massive tour. And the shit happened, and it was almost like we were like picking sides, you know what I mean? It was almost like, oh, Hoppa is like, that's like, it wasn't like out there like that, but it almost felt like that, because it's like we were immediately going on this tour. Dizzy was still, I think, working with Dame, because like Dame's the reason Dizzy's even involved in the first place. Like Dame like scouted Dizzy, met him, brought him on to Funk Volume, all that. So they have their own relationship, despite whatever Hop and Dame had. So like Dizzy was kind of just like, shit, this just happened, like this is fucked up. But he, nobody knew the full story or whatever. So he just was like, nobody was doing anything out of malicious intent. Everybody was just moving the way like they felt was like cool, But that shit just like fizzled like that, and everybody took a break, and that was more like, oh shit. But shortly after that, I touched base with like everybody and made sure that at least my relationship with each individual person was cool. You know what I mean? Like, because I've always been pretty neutral, never really got into it with anybody. So I wanted to make sure like, yo, it's all love over here. You know what I mean? Right. And it was reciprocated. Everybody felt the same way. So I'm cool with everybody. Funk Volume.
During that period, though, you were mentioning like the tour leading up to that, you guys could kind of feel something brewing. What's that like though, being on tour and you can feel like animus like that in there? How does that like impact you when you're performing in any way? Is that kind of lingering in your mind, or once you're on stage, that's out of your mind?
It's just one of those, it's like fucking, the tour shit is like you're together day in, day out.
Right.
Same shit every single day. So it's like, it could be anything. If you guys, we could be like, man, it was just bitching and moaning about whatever, So it's like, and that shit just builds up. And, but it wasn't like, it might have fucking thrown off somebody's mood here and there a couple nights, but it wasn't like fucking up the shit for anybody. We were all just like bitching about it. Some cats were just like, yo, we're doing all this shit, and like the pay don't reflect that. It was like people were complaining about money. People were complaining about just being tired and shit, and doing more than, or just not knowing all the details of what was going on. And that shit is common though in a tour like that's that big with that many different artists, and just not being fully transparent and explaining things. You know what I mean? Like, so just jumping on board, because we were all just jumping on board, like, let's go, let's do this, it's gonna be dope. And then when you're out there, you start to realize things that like you're just like, fuck, this sucks. And then like you're with your bros, and you just talk shit. You're like, this shit sucks, or whatever it is. And then it just snowballs and shit. You know what I mean? It could turn into something, and it just turned into like fools being disgruntled a little bit. You know what I mean? And that's it. But it didn't affect like the shit that much, you know what I mean? I don't think it like changed the tour, and it was like, oh no, the tour was still fun as fuck. I had a great time on that tour, like super fun time.
So it was more just between the two of them versus it impacting everyone else.
Yeah, like I would say like absolutely. For like the actual reaction, the big reaction of the shit falling, that was like no one saw that really happening. But when it
Sure.
happened, it was like, yep. Like, it wasn't like,
Well, that's a surprise.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Cool. So then we fast forward, then a few years passes since Funk Volume ceased to exist, and then I see a picture that of Dame and Hopsin in the studio, and then I was like, well, that's cool. And I watched like the first part of their podcast that they did. So maybe you already knew before that happened because they mentioned in the podcast like they had been talking for like about a year. So whatever the period of time was that you found out they had kind of rekindled, what was your reaction?
I was like, oh shit, like dope. Like, it surprised me that it happened just because, Hobbs diss
Yeah,
was
he went in
brutal. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Just brutal, straight brutal. But I know that, Dame's a solid dude, and Hop reached out to Dame, so Dame took the call, and they hashed it out like some grown ass men, and that's what's up. You know what I mean? Like, that's super cool, and so that was good to see. And I think they had to do the podcast for their own peace of mind. I think
Sure.
for Dame, he got to put it out there in the world, like, hey, it's not just this video that portrayed me in a certain light. It's there's more to the story than that.
Right.
So he got to show the other side of the story with Hop, confirming it, basically, like, right there. So for us, we all got the advanced screening, we all got we got the heads up and shit. They told us it was happening, and they like sent us the video before it went live, so we got to watch it, and it was cool. I was like, this is, it's good to see for anybody that was a super fan and was just super tapped into the shit, to like kind of see that the answer to some of the questions or whatever they were saying or believing on the internet.
Right. Yeah. Me and a couple buddies also, we're fans. So when we saw that, we had the same reaction. We're like, holy crap, this was surprising, but it was obviously a good thing. And you kind of see after that, Hop was kind of mentioning too that he's kind of working on some stuff on his own to, like that's kind of why I guess led him to doing that, was that he's thinking about kind of his past and how to remedy things. So it was good to see. It's good to see because obviously while things were going with Funk Volume, it was going pretty well in terms of the music and all of that. Like you mentioned, the tours were fun for your guys' end. So what that means, who knows? But just in terms of all that, it was nice to see that, just like you said, two grown men working things out, especially like on a camera in front of it, like where whoever wants to see can see it. It's pretty unique.
Right. Yeah, it's out there now, and that's good. It's exactly. Like, it's just it ends the story a little better than where it was, you know what I mean? How it was ending before. And whatever happens after, who knows? You know what I mean? We're all still doing our thing regardless. Jarren, Dizzy, Hop, Swizz, myself, everybody's releasing music. Shit, I got a song. Swizz just sent me a hook for a song the other day, so.
Sweet.
And then, so we're still making tracks and shit. But, yeah.
Well, you guys had last I believe it was last year, right? You put out the album Hoppa and Friends, the second one, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
You had a couple of them on, if not all of them.
I had everybody.
You had everyone on. Yeah.
Got them all. Got Hop on there. Jarren, Swizz, Dizzy. For sure, had to do it. You know what I mean? And that's my way of letting everybody know, hey, I'm still cool with everybody. You know what I mean? Like, and I still respect those dudes. I respect their artistry and their rap styles, and those are my homies, so I definitely want them on my music and shit. And I'm gonna continue working with those cats.
It was a hell of an album, man. I mean, you had, in addition to them, I think you had Demrick on there too. I mean, what that ensemble you had, the Friends portion, in addition to yours, of course. But all of you guys, such a talented group. So that whole cast that you had, that was a fantastic album, man.
Thank you, man. Thank you. We're actually, we're gonna do that on vinyl. We're getting some vinyl pressed to that record. Yeah, because we got a lot of people asking for the vinyl. So press that up, have that in a couple months or something.
That's awesome. I mean, so that was, did you guys record it during last year, or did you guys start prior to last year and finalize it in 2020?
I think there's a couple songs that might have got done like late 2019. That I just had in the pocket, you know what I mean? Like brewing. And then a lot of it, I'd say like 85% of it, 90% of it was during like the beginning of the quarantine. Like as soon as shit started locking down, I was just like reaching out to everybody like, yo, this is perfect time to lock in and send me that verse, you know what I mean?
Right.
And then I was at home doing nothing. So I'm like formulating, okay, because like, man, collecting verses from this many rappers is a job in itself.
I
Like
can
just
imagine.
staying on top of them, because everybody's cool on the phone or in person. They're like, yeah, if I got you, bro, I'm gonna send you that shit like ASAP. You know what I mean? Like I want to, they're like, send me beats. Yeah, I love it. I love it. And then you're like, yo, what's up with that verse? I got you. I'm gonna be in the studio Tuesday. Tuesday, like, what's happening? He's like, oh, I didn't go to the studio. I had to go do this, but I'm gonna be in the studio, and you got to just kind of like, you got to be persistent, really. You got to stay on top of these rappers, man, because they're so busy, just like anybody else, like they're doing their thing, and you're kind of asking them for something. And but I stay persistent, man, and I make sure to collect these verses and get that music done. So it pretty much happened, yeah, I think in the beginning of quarantine and shit, because I had it out by like August.
Right.
So yeah.
Is that kind of how your process typically is though? Because like whoever you work with, they're not necessarily near you, so you guys you'll have to already have the files sent to you, or is it that you guys will meet up, do it in person, get things finalized,
I
and then go
typically
for it?
do it in person.
Right.
Yeah, like, Dizzy will be in town and I'll be like, bro, come by the studio, and I'll have records like that I've put aside for Dizzy, because I'm like, this is like, I hear Dizzy on it. This is
Mm-hmm.
who I want to be on this record. And then I'll get him in the studio and play it for him. And I'm just looking at him like hoping he just like pulls out his phone and starts writing. You know what I mean? Like that's all I wanted to do is pull out your phone and look down and start writing, dude. And so like, with Dizzy, Demrick, Gavlin, I can get them in the studio and do stuff like, in person. And then, sometimes like certain other artists or situations, I'll just send it out like with like Recognize or UBI. Even Hopsin's verse, I think Hopsin recorded it in another country. I
I
don't
think he
even
was in
think he was in
Thailand,
the,
I think.
yeah. So it's like, it all depends. I love to do it in person because I love to like just be able to not shape it or anything, but offer input. I might
Right.
hear
Of
something
course.
in the session and be like, oh, it'd be crazy if you could do that, and then we can do that. Whereas like if they do it on their own and they send it, it's kind of, you get what you get. So,
Was that
but
the
either
first
way,
time you done it like that before? Obviously, this was out of circumstance. It wasn't like I want to do it this way. But have you had it that remote before when creating that like an entire album?
no, I guess for an entire album, yeah, like Hop and Friends 1, I think I recorded a lot of that in my studio. I don't think I got a lot of verses sent in from that. But then I'm used to doing stuff like sending stuff out too. That's real commonplace now, to just like get features done or guest verses done, and you just send it to them and they send the vocals back,
Mm-hmm.
send a reference, and you just line it up. With like Ritz, he just sends the verses back, stuff like that. And it's cool. It's fine too, like because then it's like you wouldn't be, flying across the country to work with everybody. You just wouldn't be able to logistically, you know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
so with this you can. And I think it's like for me personally, like a coin flip of like the music I put out between what's recorded like here in the studio or what I send out.
Cool. So at this stage of your career, you've been doing this for you have your record for almost 2 decades.
Yeah.
What's the split between you approaching artists to work with and artists approaching you to work with? Is it like 50-50? Is it more one way or the other? Has it shifted over the years?
I say it's 50-50. Like, I don't hesitate to reach out. If
Sure.
somebody's dope, I'll hit their DM and be like, yo, bro, you're dope. Like, let's work. You know what I mean? Like, I fuck with your sound. Or I'll just give them props, and be like, yo, your shit is dope. If I meet them, same shit. I'm not like, I'm definitely not, I'm not in your inbox, like, listen to my
Yeah.
beats, listen to my beats. It's all genuine, like, if I really, really fuck with the sound, I'll let them know. And people reach out to me, same thing, you know what I mean? If I usually like at shows, you meet artists at shows backstage or something like that, and that's where you make a quick connection where they're eye to eye and they're just like, hey, send me some shit, like, let's work. And then you're looking at someone dead in their face, like, yeah, all right, I got you, and you send
Sure.
them some shit. And usually it ends up happening into some shit. And then online, it's like send me a pack, and like I might not have a pack of beats to send them at that moment and
Hmm.
shit. I'll be like, all right, I'll send you like one beat that I think you might fuck with, and then they might not like that beat. And that's it. Like
Yeah.
nothing happened out of that, interaction or whatever. If I really wanted to push it and keep sending them a bunch of beats, I could, but typically, like if I haven't met them personally and shit, and they're just reaching out the DM, like, if I fuck with their shit, like it's really all on a case by case basis.
For you, how do you gauge what you think might like? So let's say you've identified someone that you think you would like to collaborate with. How
Yeah.
do you identify if you have something already that works for them? Do you just base it off of what their pre-existing sound is, what their style is, and then if it's something that you think they would kind of be able to work well with, is that what your process is?
Yeah, it's typically like I'll listen to their vocal tone and just
Mm,
like the type of voice they have. And then it's really about that for me, like the tone of an artist or their cadence, but really just like their tone as an instrument and how it sits on certain beats. So certain artists like voice just sounds great on certain types of beats. And and listen to their style too, and just make sure like I do that. I do like listen to their shit and just see like, okay, what would it go good with? And then sometimes that's not like what they want. They just want something that's like my typical sound or
sure.
something. You know what I mean? Like they're like, oh, just make something that you would make, don't try to make some shit for me. And you meet in the middle and make something dope. That's pretty much where collabs happen and shit.
Yeah, and the thing is, with at least with the songs that I've heard with you as the DJ, it's so um, it can go like any direction. Like you're pretty flexible in what your sound can be, or at least what you
Yeah,
can
yeah.
work with. Because like Jarren Benton put out a song. It was sometime last year, like "Burn It Down," for example. Like that one
Hmm.
was like a very chill, like Spanish style sounding song, and then you got other songs
Right.
where it's more like old school hip hop sounding. So you kind of have the whole gamut in it, which is pretty cool listening to it because like it's like if you like put it on random on Spotify on your on your artist page, you don't know what's gonna where it's gonna go to the next song. So it's
Right.
pretty cool that you have that ability.
Right on. Thank you. I appreciate that, man. Like, yeah, I try to keep it all having like more of like the feel be common, just feeling like just a groove and shit. But yeah, I definitely like if I'm producing for Gavlin, like we'll have like some certain sounds we lean more towards. And then if I'm doing stuff with Jarren, I love to hear Jarren on like boom bap shit. Just like or just like heavy beats and
Yeah,
shit like that. So
he has the
yeah.
voice for it, and he has like the ferocity that really goes along with
Yeah,
that.
yeah, he's a great man. I love Jarren, dude. He's such a beast. Um, but yeah, like I try to make all kinds of shit. I just want the drums to knock. You know what I mean? I want the shit to fucking make your head bop and shit. And as long as I fuck with it, then I usually feel good about it. I'm like, all right, cool, let it ride.
Yeah, it always does, man. So, I mean, given like that this type of sound that we just described, when you were coming up, or even still to this day, what were like some of the people that influenced how you have your sound? And do you have like new people now that you kind of hear that you can kind of pick apart, or do you already feel pretty cemented on what you do and you kind of go with that?
Man, I get inspired by all kinds of different shit. Like sometimes I'll just go listen to a bunch of fucking classic rock and get super inspired on
Mm,
like melodies and just like sounds and just techniques that they were doing in the recordings. And so I try to just bounce around and listen to a lot of stuff. And then sometimes like I just don't listen to any music because I'm like in the studio every day, 10 hours a day, 8 hours a day, and I'm like, and like I'm like, damn, this month I haven't really listened to shit. I've just been working on music and not
right.
even like taking in music. So, but I try to listen to music as much as possible. And like, one of my favorite rappers I'm always telling people about is this dude IDK, and he's getting
I
pretty
think I've heard
popular.
him. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think I've heard
he's
him.
like, I love his, he's the whole package as far as like beat selection and vocal tones and like having different like techniques, not like multiple flows, multiple deliveries. Like it's really a dope artist that I'd like to check out. And then who else? Like producers that inspired me coming up were like DJ Shadow, RJD2, a lot of guys that did a lot of sampling, RZA, P Rock, Dre, all those dudes like Dilla, just all the, Mad Lib, Premier, all those producers from like golden age era hip hop and shit were really huge influence to me.
Right. I'm gonna end on just one final thing. So we
Yeah.
kind of talked about some of the difficulties when starting up the label. Just over your career, what would you say were some of the like the toughest things you had to overcome, and how were you able to do it? Was the people around you, the people you were working with? What kind of helped you get through all the difficult periods?
I think toughest part of running a label is, man, there's a few different things that make it pretty difficult. Like one is you're kind of like the bad guy because you're the label.
Right,
You're
I
like
get
the
you.
business, you know what I mean? So it's like you're not really like you're not the one people are thinking about or any, you're kind of just always like, oh, the label's just getting the money, da 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 da. So it's like you have to prove your worth, you know what I
Right,
mean? Like, and that comes from maintaining good relationships with good people and being transparent and letting them know, hey, this is what we're making, this is why we're making it, this is what you're making, this is why you're making it, this is how we make more together. This, you know what I mean? Like, and you really explain the mathematics of it. And it's like, okay, cool. It's like, yeah, together is more, like we'll do it better if we work together, all that shit. And then the other thing is like money, because you're in an industry that's fueled by massive promotion and big, deep pockets from record labels that have, huge budgets. And being an indie, you're typically funding it from your own pocket or the success of your independent releases, which typically, is independent sized, you know what I mean? It's
right.
not, super sized. So you're working with budgets and you just a lot of DIY, wearing a lot of different hats, doing a lot of different things yourself. But I think once a lot of it is maintaining a good structure and good routine and like good work ethic, and that shit will grow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I mean, you don't even give the impression though, like, because you're what you started with was like you're the label, so you might already be perceived as a bad guy, but you don't even give off that like corporate sleaze feel by any means. So
yeah,
I
no,
think
that's always
that's yeah, that's
that's
gonna
been
be in
our
your
thing.
favor.
Yeah, that's been our thing from the beginning, was like that's not our angle, and
Right.
it comes from a good place, you know what I mean? Like our love for music and everything, it all starts from a good place, and the only thing is we don't want to work for somebody else, even though I put more blood, sweat, and tears into this than I would at a 9 to 5. It's better than a 9 to 5 for me, you know what I
Of
mean? It's like
course.
I get to do my own thing and help other people make music, and making music is makes me feel good, and that's it. The money doesn't have to be great, but that's an incentive to, make your structure stronger and make your game plan, plan for the future, do a better business plan. That's the thing too, is like none of us have like business degrees or anything like that. So coming up, we were just like, we're just doing it on the side, like on some fun hobby shit. This last year, getting this facility and opening up the studio and everything, we're really structuring and planning to grow the label like at a much faster pace now than it has grown in the last, 10 years. From 2010 to 2020 was like the, the side college, like little indie
Hmm.
grassroots thing. And then now 2020, we're maintaining that, but we're just stepping it up a little more, and yeah, getting a little more serious with it.
Sweet. Well, Hoppa, I wish you the best of luck with that and much success. I know
Thank you,
I'm
Mama.
100% sure. I'm sure we're gonna see that, and I know you just put out was a new track or new album with one of your guys the other day.
Yeah,
Um,
Johnny Denver just
yeah,
dropped an album called The Good King. Yeah, shout
yeah,
out to Johnny Denver.
yeah. So
Yep.
I'm gonna check that out too, because if it's on again, if it's something with your fingerprints on it, in addition to the talented artists you're working with, I know it'll be great. So I got to take a look at that. Where can
Thank you.
people find you? Instagram, all that stuff.
Everything is DJ Hoppa, DJ Hoppa, and you can also catch the label at Broken Complex, and we're on Twitch doing. I made a beat live on Twitch today. We got an email list, all that good shit. So stay in touch.
Perfect. Well, that's DJ Hop again. Thanks a lot, man. I appreciate it.
No doubt. Appreciate you, brother.
You got it.